Good morning, everyone. Here's your Mormon news update for January 29th, 2025. Today, we're going to start off by talking about church-owned news sources. First, we will go to KSLTV.com, where it says, the Deseret News is celebrating the retirement of one of its prestigious photojournalists after he spent his career capturing moments that touched the lives of many. I'm sure you remember this iconic photo, which we will talk about in just a minute. The man behind the camera is Jeffrey D. Allred. His images served the Deseret News and the Church News. Some captured half a world away and others were closer to home. Allred knows instinctively if a moment catches his eye, it will do the same for ours. Doug Wilkes, executive editor of the Deseret News, brought his staff together weeks ago to celebrate Allred. All of us could say something about Jeff. We love working with you, Wilkes said. After 40 years as a photojournalist and 32 logged at the Deseret News, Allred's supervisors and colleagues honored him, emphasizing his gifts and gentle nature. He said he's retiring from an award-winning career that almost didn't happen. My mother had always wanted a dentist in the family, and she really wanted me to be a dentist, he said. I'm at Utah State, and I'm thinking, okay, I'll give it a go. But it was a photography class, his brother suggested, that changed his course. It was magical. It was like a miracle, he said, and I thought, this is it. I want to do this. Telling stories through photos became his passion, and he would go on to travel to 72 countries pursuing stories. When in Rome in 2019, Allred was captured by KSL-TV photographers as he worked to capture a historic photograph of the 15 senior leaders of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints there. One of the more pressure-filled assignments was this day, Allred laughed. To say the least, you take a moment that has never been done before and may never be done again. We're looking at the right time of day, figuring out the lighting, and you have to use a pretty wide angle lens for this too. So there's this technical factor, but trying to direct 15 of the church's hierarchy was not for the faint of heart. I dare say these old white men who've been in leadership in the church for a long time don't like being told what to do. In 1997, during the Church of Jesus Christ Pioneer Trek reenactment, a covered wagon that had traveled from Winter Quarters, Nebraska and reached Easy Canyon suddenly collapsed. These mules got spooked. They threw the driver off. The wagon starts to disintegrate, Allred said. They keep coming toward me and coming, and I'm thinking I'm going to get trampled. And at the last minute, they veered off to the side and kind of stumbled, and everybody's okay. The photo became famous, finding its way around the world. I love the future of journalism, Allred said, when asked about whether he's optimistic about the field. I love it, and there's a place for it. As I teach students about still photography, about photojournalism, I encourage them because there's always going to be a place for the next best photographer. We can inform the public. It's our duty, our job, and it's a lot of fun. This got me curious about what it would be like to work for the church in one of their news outlets, so I found this post on the ex-Mormon subreddit from 1 year ago that says, Hi, longtime lurker here. I used to work for one of the church-owned news properties in downtown Salt Lake City. I'm not going to say which one, but I wanted to say a few things. Also wanted to clear up a few misconceptions I see on here sometimes. Number 1, Deseret News is not profitable. Deseret News has been going through various corporate restructurings for over 10 years. To my understanding, this is because the website is not generating income for the church, but the church is invested in its continued existence. They currently are trying to rebrand into a national outlet, but their viewership is almost entirely Utah still. This is in contrast to every other major entity in the newsroom, which to my knowledge operates in the green, KSL News Radio, TV.com, etc. 2. The newsroom does not have super Mormon staff. I see on here sometimes that any all church-owned news properties are just pro-LDS hogwash. I have a problem with that characterization both in who the employees are and the work they produce. The work culture is interesting because they have a coffee and a soda machine, and even the Mormons live on the caffeine. It's also about a 50-50 split of Mormon and non-Mormon reporters, possibly even more non-Mormons at the entry level. I know people who have worked there for 20 years who drink alcohol or are gay, or a lot of non-Utah transplants. 3. They do have some serious news talent, but editorials can do them a disservice. On the work they produce, I want to say that Utah has one of the largest news markets in the American West, and KSL plus Deseret News attract talented, award-winning reporters from every part of the country. They produce some fantastic work. And I am very disappointed when I see people say it's just LDS propaganda. I understand that some of the corporate branding is awful, especially with Deseret News. I find it offensive that they run op-eds about the sanctity of traditional marriage next to some super in-depth political accountability articles. I know at least one employee who quit because they found the editorials horrible and a disservice to their work. Number 4, corporate meddling is only/mainly with religion-based stories or extremely sensitive topics. Reporters want to cover some critical church issues or sensitive topics. Sometimes they win, and sometimes they don't. I know there's been a few feminist articles that were a fight to get posted, but the reporters won on. There are some basic brand standards like no swears, no articles all about alcohol or Utah weed economics, but the only time I ever saw corporate meddling, save once, was on sensitive church issues. If it was a church newsroom write-up or basic religion reporting, no one intervenes, or a manager gives it an extra close once over. But if it's a sensitive topic, such as church abuse scandals or the 100 billion hedge fund, the CEO of the company reads them personally before they go up. Or there's a set senior staff who can write those articles, or both. It causes some delays on important articles that frustrate some reporters. 5. We had to follow the church style guide and hated it. People would joke about how the church style guide sucked, but we had to use it because of ownership. So sometimes the church got put in headlines because the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is SEO and headline super. And if it says the church, a reader will know which church. It is not an attempt to try to say there's only one church. It's a sad employee who has to not say Mormon and can't fit the full name into a headline. So it gets shortened in various questionable ways. What are your feelings about church-owned news sources? I'd love to hear about them in the comments. Speaking of, let's go to the church newsroom. Before beginning their service in the church's missionary training centers worldwide, the 11 new MTC leadership couples gathered to hear from members of the Missionary Executive Council and leaders of the missionary department. During the 2025 seminar for new MTC leaders, January 21st through 24th at the Provo Missionary Training Center, they listened to Elder Quentin L. Cook and Elder Ronald A. Rasband of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles. Both are on the Missionary Executive Council, chaired by Elder Cook. The two each acknowledged President Russell M. Nelson's emphasis on the gathering of Israel and his October 2024 General Conference statement. Quote, "Do you see what is happening right before our eyes? I pray that we will not miss the majesty of this moment. The Lord is indeed hastening his work." Close quote. Said Elder Rasband, "That is our day. That is your day. That is the field you are going out into. Don't miss it." It appears that at this MTC training, they wanted to emphasize the second coming, which seems to be ramping up as of late. Let's take a quick break from this article, which we will come back to read this post that says, "Our stake presidency reiterated the prophet's message to take measures you have perhaps never taken before to prepare for the Savior's coming, like getting rid of movies that would be offensive to the spirit and attending the temple with more frequency, etc. Bednar came to our stake a couple of years ago. The urgency of his message was unmistakable, and he is far more feisty in the stake meeting than he is in general conference. I wish I had recorded it. I wish you had too, my dear. But I took as many notes as fast as I could. Urgent, passionate. Do what you have to do to understand the atonement is for you. Whatever is holding you back, figure it out." In a previous year, Elder Wong of the 70, not to be confused with Elder Gong, gave an equally urgent message. Get it together, people. The brethren are not messing around. Eyes to see and ears to hear. To which someone responded, "Yes, that's exciting. If you think of anything else they said, don't hesitate to share." And someone else responded with, "As a reminder, we are not to record meetings without permission." Oh, the little lemmings. Back to the article from the Church News about the MTC training. Other Missionary Executive Council members presenting at the seminar were Elder W. Mark Bassett, a General Authority 70 and Missionary Department Executive Director, Young Women General President Emily Bell Freeman, and Sister Amy A. Wright, First Counselor in the Primary General Presidency. I'm glad they got President Freeman's title correct in this article, as opposed to this video clip where not only was she not present, but she was called Sister Freeman instead of President Freeman by the President of the Young Men's General Presidency, Stephen Lund.
Here to invite you to be sure and tune in to the worldwide youth broadcast. It will be streamed on January 5th. You'll see Sister Freeman and I We're going to the sacred grove.
Back to the article from the Church News. Elder Rasband recalled when he was the new president of the New York North Mission, and some missionaries were casual in obedience, even after repeated reminders. Because while the Mormon Church has a lot of qualities that would qualify it as a cult, Mormon missions go quite a few steps further, and obedience is of utmost importance. Sister Melanie Rasband, his wife and mission leadership companion, suggested a new emphasis, teaching the missionaries more about Jesus Christ and what Elder Rasband called a little formula, not to be confused with a little factory. The more we know him, the more we'll love him. The more we love him, the greater our desire to serve him. Several months later, the missionaries showed great growth, not only in obedience, but in all aspects of their missionary and personal lives, Elder Rasband said. The other thing from this article that I found interesting was the amount of MTCs the church has now. I don't know that this is an exhaustive list, but leaders from the following MTCs were in attendance at the training: Sao Paulo, Brazil; Kinshasa, Democratic Republic of the Congo; Preston, England; Accra, Ghana; Mexico City, Mexico; Auckland, New Zealand; Lima, Peru; Manila, Philippines; Provo, Utah; Johannesburg, South Africa; and Bangkok, Thailand. Speaking of missionaries and control, let's now go to a post from the Ex-Mormon subreddit that says, "I'm currently writing this on my apostate phone. I'm on my mission right now with so much time still left. I'm scared to say specifics. I don't want to get found out and sent home. I've recently started researching about early church history, and the gospel is getting harder and harder to believe. I want more than anything for this church to be true, but it's feeling more and more like everything has just been a lie. I've never had a huge testimony, but I decided that I wanted to prove to myself with facts whether or not the church is true. When I started searching for answers, they've mostly all been evidence that it's not. I've read the CES letter and debates against it. I've read and watched other arguments for and against the church, but for the most part, nothing has strongly pointed to the church being true. I need help. I don't know what I should do from here. Any advice is welcome. Advice on how to deal with the fact that there might not be life after death. How to deal with this feeling of dread that everything I believed might be a scam. Any evidence that the church is true." And they put the little prayer hands. "I'm still hoping so badly. Despite my doubts, I want to finish my mission so my family will be happy, and because the mission has actually been super fun so far. We barely have lessons or appointments. Thank you guys so much in advance. I've read through other posts here, and they really helped too." Do you have advice for this missionary? Feel free to leave it in the comments. And now let's go to X, formerly known as Twitter, for this post by Darren Collins. "There's always talk about people leaving the church. However, a few years ago, the church only had 2 general authorities overseeing anyone returning whose records had been removed. The church now needs 12 general authorities overseeing those returning due to the sheer volume of people coming back. Let's go Zion." Luke Hansen responded, "Do we have the original source on this?" And Darren Collins said, "You're welcome to call church headquarters. Perhaps they will confirm it. My source is solid and knows firsthand." Yeah, church headquarters is not going to confirm anything. T. Grogan then said, "That's interesting. Where do you find the statistics?" And Darren responded, "Was told it last night by someone involved in it. Not sure if the info is available somewhere else, but could perhaps call church headquarters to see if they can verify." Tyson Zimmerman said, "That's wonderful news. Where did you learn that?" And Darren said, "A small meeting I had last night." Jake from Stake Farm, who is also at Liberty, imagine my surprise, said, "I know someone who has access to the data. They've told me that church departures are the lowest they've ever been. It's just that those who do leave announce it far and wide on social media. Loud leavers." So now we're not only lazy learners, we're also loud leavers. Ginger Pumpernickel said, "I don't know, I think you'd see it in church attendance." To which Darren responded, "That's not always the best metric. Many people here in California continue to move out of state." You know, every time I see someone trying to explain away wards shrinking, they always say, "Oh, those people just moved to another state." However, if that was true, and those people were then attending in another state, there would also be people saying, "Ooh, these wards are growing by leaps and bounds," and that I have not seen. Does truth make you uncomfortable then said, "The question no anti or Exmo has ever been able to answer is, why do people return to the church? They get flustered and mad or just run away from the question by gish-galloping the rest of the conversation." Exmos, I feel like this is a challenge. Can you answer the question, why do people return to the church? Please put your thoughts in the comments. And now let's finish with this great quote from Dr. Jen, who says, "What doesn't kill you can dysregulate your nervous system, trap itself in your body, steal your sense of self, make you wish it did. I don't know what makes you stronger means, but let's stop glorifying trauma as a life lesson we've been blessed with." And that's your update for today, folks. I absolutely hope you have the day that you deserve.